Today on Toy Shiz, we got an infestation of Krabbits. Let's talk toys. Welcome back, everyone. Toy Shiz here, and I am back yet again to give you guys another retro shiz look back at the past. And today, we're heading all the way back to 1996 for the McFarlane Toys Spawn Series 4 wave featuring the MAXX. Right? Everyone remembers the MAXX. A really interesting comic book character from the 90s. Now, I never really understood the comics, never really got into those as a kid, but I did catch him on MTV's Liquid Television, and that is ultimately what introduced me to the MAXX. Not to say I didn't see him in comic book stores, posters, ads in other comic books, but it really was Liquid Television's cartoon that got me into even thinking about the MAXX. And then couple that, of course, with the McFarlane Toys MAXX action figure. I didn't get this figure right off the bat. This was many years later that I actually picked up the figure, and I'm really glad that I did because more now as an adult, I get the MAXX better. I get the story behind it. There was several iterations, variants of the MAXX figure. One of them came with a black Iz. Another very rare one, if you were lucky enough to find it, came with 4 Iz's, 2 whites and 2 blacks. And then over on the McFarlane's Collector Club, which I totally remember in the catalog, they had a bag of Iz's, and that came with a bunch of different blacks and the whites, and also had a rare red Iz in it. But for the sake of this video, we're going to be looking at my MAXX figure that came with a standard white bendy-armed Iz. So, in either case, this is going to be fun. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee, take it to the MAXX, of course. This is a look at the 1996 Spawn action figure line, the MAXX, by Sam Kieth and McFarlane Toys. And of course, after all these years, yes, I don't have the packaging anymore, but you get the idea. You get a couple accessories, and then you do get one heck of a really cool action figure. The MAXX is so different. How do you even draw the MAXX? Sam Kieth, I think, is the only one to crack that code. He's such a different, bulbous type of entity, but he really does translate well to action figure form. Now, with mine, I have the version where it comes with the white Iz, right? Little guys from the Outback that start off white, and then you take them into the real world, and they turn black and vicious. I like that. On the bottom, you have McFarlane Toys, but then you also have 1996 Sam Kieth. Like I said, there's the black Iz's. Mr. Gone uses those guys. When the MAXX travels to the Outback, he does battle with the white Iz's as well. They're little you-know-whats, basically, you know what I mean? But they're weirdos, and I honestly think that there's not much to these, but let's just say for the sake of capturing them in action figure form, I mean, they did a solid job. It would have been cool to have like a more of a happy white Iz. I will tell you that. Not much movement besides the arms. That's it. He does come with the Outback headdress as well. Now, it works for what it is. It's got, we'll say, real hair, for lack of a better term, but it's not exactly the best in terms of how it looks and translates to comic book form. It's a lot more wistful and everything else. This is kind of, yeah, it works. It's okay. But if you look at the promo photos for back in the day, there was a lot more going on, and I think that the hair difference, the choice, really did fit the artwork and the look that Sam Kieth put forward on the page. So I would have totally rather had that headdress. But it does have 2 little prongs right there, and that's will fit in the top part of the MAXX's head, which, yeah, the figure, like I said, what is the MAXX? How do you even begin? How does his body work? It's really cool, but they've taken a really cool 2D illustration and brought it into a 3D action figure world, and it looks exactly like the MAXX. It's got the big weird mask to him. He's got his big claws, right, sticking out right in the middle, doing his Wolverine thing. That's what I always say. I'm like, why does this guy have like a Wolverine thing? I like the shoes on him, or the boots, or whatever you call them. It's every bit, like his little MAXX butt right there. Every little bit of the illustrations is there. Now, he is left with 2 holes on either side of his head, whereas I think that, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I think the headdress would have worked better if it clipped, right? Instead of pronged in, but it stays nicely. You do get head articulation. You do get arm articulation. There's nothing at the elbows. There's nothing at the wrists. Very basic. Feet go up and down. So again, it's very much that 90s articulation. He'll even swivel at the waist. He works for what my tastes like. It's a very cool looking MAXX figure. And when you want to go ahead and take the headdress, right, you simply just port it in just like that. And just kind of fuddle with it, get it all looking spiffy. And I mean, it does work in terms of the artwork, but I really wish it was more of that promotional look for him, because he really has huge, really wild headdress when he is in the outback. And don't get me wrong, it works, but I think it could have been just a little bit better, right? But all the little details, all the different screws and the lug nut, everything that's odd end about the MAXX, right? Totally different comic, really way out there. A very interesting story, right? To be honest, but yeah, it does the trick for the MAXX. Now, if you wanted to pose him next to Spawn, especially a Spawn of the 90s era, I think he'll go rather well. This is something I kind of just learned about recently, well, recent years. The MAXX actually met Batman, right? It was Arkham Dreams, as drawn by Sam Kieth. I don't think the story was all too well received. I haven't read it myself, but I am definitely interested now. And to be honest, the NECA Toys Batman actually kind of works with this MAXX, right? It actually looks pretty good. So definitely a nice little mashup right there if you wanted to go that route. Talking about 80s, 90s comic books, really obscure creator-owned comics of the day. Got the Turtles. Sam Kieth even drew Cable, Ghost Rider, Wolverine back in the day. I actually really like his rendition of Wolverine. I like all the arm hair, and I really like his ears. It's all fuzzy. I don't know. Looks pretty cool to me. This is a really well-done action figure. It's got the very basic articulation for back in the day, of course. And to be honest with you, I really would like to see a new, more articulated version of the MAXX. Now, some years later, after this figure was released, Shocker Toys did a much more articulated figure of the MAXX, and I actually don't have that one. Again, it wasn't until probably some years after it was released that I even knew that this figure existed. Very obscure. If you can get a hold of one, or if you have one, hey, that's pretty cool. Send me some photos. I wouldn't mind checking them out. However, if you are after a MAXX figure and want a cool looking figure for your shelf, McFarlane is definitely a way to go. So that's really going to wrap it up for my Retro Shiz look back at the 1996 McFarlane Toys' Spawn line featuring the MAXX, right? Check out the animation. You can watch it online. It's very well done. It's a story that I won't go into here, but a lot of people that know about the MAXX, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's very different. It's very adult. And like I said, as a kid, I did not get it. It was more about the artwork, the illustrations. But now looking back and going like, oh, wow, I have a newfound appreciation for this story. It's a very short run for the original MAXX. It's about 35 issues. You can get a collected volume if you'd like, but hands down, definitely check out the MAXX animation from Liquid Television. Totally looks like HBO's Spawn. Very cool. Different animation style, but you get the idea. But I am curious to know what you guys think about the MAXX. Is it for you? Will you be grabbing? Have you already? Comment below. Let me know. Let's talk everything the MAXX. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, remember, man, the 90s were something else. Not to say that the MAXX doesn't hold up in this day and age, but it was a nice love letter time capsule for the old 90s, right? And when they do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.